If you've been going around the good old internet looking for the right podcast to fulfill your New York Yankees needs, well, I'll be the first to deliver the good news to you. You have found it. Here on Yapping Yankees with me, your host, Mike Scudero, you and I will be discussing the latest news, takes, and talk throughout the entire Yankee universe. Oh, and there may be some ranting on my behalf. Yeah. Anyway, what do you say we get to it? Let's get to yapping! Well, hello there, my fellow Yankee fans, and welcome to episode 272 of the Yapping Yankees podcast. As always, I am your host, Mike Scudero, your friendly neighborhood Yankee yapper with the best yap in all the land here on January 11th of the year 2026, not 5, 6. With yet another extra large order of the Yappuccino for you. Another edition of some Yankee Japanese out to the masses. Happy New Year, everybody. Yes, sir. 2026. How in the hell did that happen? Oh, my God. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, the last time we spoke, it was December 28th. 2 weeks ago to the day. It was after Christmas, but before New Year's. So I do hope all of you had a happy, healthy, and safe New Year and had a good time with your loved ones. Or maybe even if you just spent a night in just quietly like I did with my lovely fiance. Just spent the night here at the apartment. It was nice. She was a little bit under the weather that night. So it's all good. And speaking of being a little bit under the weather, now I seem to be. So that's just fantastic, isn't it? Fear not, Joseph Joestar. I think it's fine. Honestly, just some congestion, some nasally voice, as you could probably tell. Maybe. I don't know. And my nose is leaking like a running faucet. So just having to blow my nose every now and again and sneezing and things like that. Little throat scratchiness a day or two ago. So I think it might just be an allergy attack, to be honest with you. So, because a lot of people in my life, friends, family, have gotten the flu lately, and it's been like kicking the living hell out of them. I would be very knowledgeable of that because I'm very experienced with the flu, unfortunately. I happen to think that the flu is one of, if not the very worst things you could catch in the entire world. Because both times I've had it, I thought I was going to freaking die, especially the second time. When my temperature hit 104, actually went slightly over it. It was like 104.2 or something like that. I was even telling my mom, I remember, I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it. I think I'm dying here. It's been a great run, even though it definitely wasn't, because at the time I was only like 26 or something like that. But hey, it is what it is, right? But I recovered from that, and a lot of my friends have been getting it lately, and they've been feeling the same way, because that's what the flu does to you. It makes you feel like you're actually going to die. But that's nowhere near what I have right now and what my fiance Victoria had maybe a couple of weeks ago. So it's honestly just like acting like an allergy attack, and God knows I've had enough of those in my lifetime to be well versed in those as well. So I definitely think it's just like an extreme allergy attack. And definitely the cold has to do with it, because who the hell likes the cold? Who likes the winter? Well, definitely not me. I'm convinced that only severely deranged people enjoy the winter. So just got to ride this out and I'll be fine. I mean, it's not the first episode where I've been under the weather. And definitely worse than this at that. But a little bit under the weather today, but just bear with me, if you will. I'm going to try to do my best to still deliver you a nice, fun, Yapping Yankees episode, even if one of the points of that subject matter being the Yankees aren't providing us with much fun lately. But the entertainment aspect of it with this show in particularly happens to be my job, so I'm still going to do my best to do that for you today. But I seriously cannot believe it's January 11th of 2026. So New Year's came and went. Mine was nice and quiet, just how I like it. Also celebrated my 29th birthday. Yay! That's right, Gojo. Can't believe it's my last year in my 20s.
Holy crap!
Sound effects galore here early on. But I know there are a lot of other people out there who are older than me, probably telling me to shut the hell up. But hey, you were here once upon a time too, and I'm sure you were like, hey, can't believe I'm about to be 30, right? Well, that's what I'm feeling. So just go with it. If anybody should know, it's you. But yeah, I seriously cannot believe that. And now fast forward 8 days later, after a great birthday celebration with my loved ones, Now it's January 11th, and we're almost in the middle of January already in just a couple of days, which is bonkers. And today is also another special day. Just wanted to give a shout out to my amazing grandmother, my Nani, as I used to call her. Today is her birthday. I should say heavenly birthday because she passed away a few years ago now. But she would have been 91 years old today. I unfortunately did lose both of my grandmothers, my maternal and paternal, in my time doing this show. I've been doing this show for a long time now, and I actually lost my grandfather just before, my dad's dad, just before I started doing this show. I started doing this show in May or June of 2019, and I lost my grandfather in March of 2019. So actually when I had just started this show nearly 7 years ago to the month, almost in a few months, I had just lost my grandfather. So around that time, just a couple of months prior to that, I still had 3 grandparents. So it's pretty crazy. I was very fortunate for that. And then I lost my final grandparent, my paternal grandmother, in the summer of 22. And then my maternal grandmother, my Nani, the one I'm talking about now, in the winter of 21, just a few months before that. So, yeah, you were with me when I lost both my grandmothers. I did mention both on the show at the time. So if you're with me for a few years now, you definitely, well, not definitely, maybe remember that. I don't remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday, let alone what another content creator might have said that I watched at some point. So I wouldn't blame you if you don't remember that. It's years ago. But I did just want to take a second to give my Nani a shout out on the show today, since today would have been her 91st birthday. Happy birthday, Nani. We love and miss you very much. But I still cannot believe that it is the 11th, nonetheless. And what I cannot believe even more than that, I guess we're just going to dive right in today as we have for the last few episodes. What I can't believe even more so than that, and I use that term can't believe very loosely when it comes to the Yankees because a part of me also can very well believe it, is that, and I knew that when the last episode came around on the 28th that we weren't going to see anything until well after the new year at least, because in that holiday week into the new year, really nothing big ever happens majorly. Very, very rarely something might happen in that little time window there, but usually year by year it's safe to assume that not much, if anything, is going to happen in that little time window, in the holiday window there into the new year. But now that we're nearly in just a handful of days here or less in the middle of January, what I really both can't and can very much believe is that it's the 11th. And, well, it is a new year and new... Yeah, still nothing.
Screw you.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Well, yeah, the sound effects basically covered that for me, so that is just about it for episode 272 today. All right, settle down. Yeah, it is insane. But, yeah, you probably don't need me telling you this, but it is January 11th, and the Yankees still have not done anything big yet.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I would say I'm at a loss for words. I both am and I'm not. Between all the reports that have been swirling the last few weeks, I don't know if they're going to do anything. I really don't at this point. I'm kind of speechless because, like I said, in a couple of days, we're going to be in the middle of January. And I had a bunch of people, because you always have people like this on social media, especially those who don't know you from a hole in the wall, who think they do and make all these assumptions about you and tell you what you probably are thinking, even though they don't know you from Adam. But had a bunch of people remind me, like, oh my God, there's still a month plus left, and even after players report, some moves still happen. In fact, some of the biggest transactions in history in the past have happened during spring training. Listen, I'm aware of that, but you usually don't want things to go that far in. We've seen this with players like Jordan Montgomery, others in the past, especially people who have Scott Boras for an agent, who have their heads blown up, thinking they deserve this and they deserve that, and then spring training's approaching, they don't have a job. And then maybe it affects at least the start of their season because they got to report to camp and maybe a little bit behind on ramping up and getting ready for things. Yeah, it's not the best strategy, and for some guys, it's proven pretty inefficient. And we're starting to see with one guy in particular who has Scott Boras as his agent. We know him very well, Mr. Cody Bellinger. It's getting late early out here. I know that pitchers and catchers are not reporting for a few more weeks, but it's already been the offseason for over 2 months already, if you could believe that. Time goes quickly. It's going to be here before you know it. And then right after pitchers and catchers report, you know that before we even can blink, then it's going to be the World Baseball Classic. And the champion is going to win that, whichever country it may be. And the regular season will be underway. And before you know it, it'll be the 2026 regular season. Time moves fast. That's my point. And usually, heading into spring training, if it can be helped, you'd probably like to know where your roots are going to land and where home base is going to be and where you're going to be spending that season, with which team, with which guys. It's pretty optimal and recommended even that you have it figured out. Now, who the hell am I? I'm just another fan. Who the hell am I to say that? Fine, you could say that. Whatever. I don't really care. But I'm just speaking from experience and watching other guys go through it and really hug spring training without having a job. And I just try to put myself in other people's heads, which I know in its own right might be a little silly because everybody's different. I understand that. But I just personally find it hard to believe that somebody wouldn't want to know where home base is and where they're going to be playing for the next season. I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't want to know that before spring camp kicks in. So that's just from the player perspective. From the organizational perspective, it's actually amazing to me how the Yankees are so stagnant and literally nothing has happened. Now, a lot has taken place around the rest of the league since we last spoke. There were still a couple of Japanese guys on the market, Imai and Okamoto. Spoiler alert, that's no longer the case. And I don't report that happily either. But a lot else has happened all over the place. And the Japanese players are a bit of a different story. They had a much harsher cutoff because their posting periods only last so long. Some of them were the last couple of days of the year. Some of them were the first couple of days of the new year they had to be signed by, otherwise they go back to Japan. So, had to be a little bit more of a rush on them. But some other guys have also planted roots and figured out where they want to play for 2026 and or the future. The Yankees have not been involved in any of that. The names, a lot of them that they have been rumored with, like Bellinger, Tucker, even a Peralta trade, Freddie Peralta with the Brewers. Just about anybody else on a large-scale basis, aside from the Japanese players, which apparently they never even made an offer to or never really even truly in on, we were told. They're basically still out there. Nothing's happened. The Yankees have not moved a muscle. Sure, they did small things. They purged all the lower scale arms out in the bullpen that were really liabilities. Mark Ladder Jr., Jake Cousins, the like, the whole group of guys over there. They got Paul Blackburn back for long relief and maybe even the tail end of the rotation while they wait for guys to come back. They got Tim Hill back. They got Ryan Yarbrough back. They extended the qualifying offer to Trent Grisham. They did their Rule 5 crap. Yeah, they've done the small scale things this winter. They tendered some guys, they non-tendered some guys. The usual small-scale, bare necessity crap. But the big stuff, like I said before, it has been over 2 months into the offseason, and nothing has happened yet.
I want more.
More, you say, Anakin. How about we just get to something before we get to more? Like, we gotta do something first. It's like remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable. And there's another guy they were interested in with the Marlins. That's no longer a thing. And it's so unbelievably frustrating. Like I said, I understand that there is more time left. Something could very well still happen in the coming weeks, and I pray to God it does, because I'm so sick and tired of hearing people, whether they be within the Yankees organization or just people reporting what the Yankees are saying from within, or fans somehow agreeing with this ridiculous comedic notion, just peddling this nonsense that this Yankee team, as is right now, especially without Cody Bellinger even coming back, which in and of itself, like I said on the last episode, I would not even fully applaud, because even at that point, while I'd be happy to see Cody return, they'd still just be running back the team. It's no new improvements, no external additions. Cody was here last year. It would just be a return, running it back again. But not only just if he were to return, but they have also said that even without him, people still think the Yankees can win the AL East. Well, I already had a whole rant last episode, back on the 28th, about how it bothers me in and of itself that the Yankees have changed their verbiage with basically minimizing their goals from what they used to be, winning a championship. And now all that's spoken about is winning the East. And I understand that's the most optimal road to take on the way to the championship, so one step at a time if you want to use that argument. I hear that. But the ultimate goal, the only one that really matters being mentioned at the end of the day, is winning a championship. But aside from all of that, to even think that this team right now could win the division? Guys, Boston may have just lost out on Bregman yesterday, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But Boston is still a team that seems to be on the rise. Maybe they're a little bit even with the Yankees right now, perhaps, especially if and when the Yankees get guys like Rodon and Cole back, and they are what they used to be, especially in Cole's case, who's been out for far longer, is older, and is coming off of Tommy John surgery. Maybe they're a bit more even, but maybe not. And you want to tell me this Yankee team is anywhere near the Blue Jays? Are you actually kidding? Like, when I look at this team, I know that most people are anticipating for Ben Rice to mostly play first base, and maybe his growth offensively especially will continue. But, all right, so you're going to have Ben over there. He's fine. Jazz, he's solid. He does a lot of things defensively on the bases, or his attitude that piss the hell out of you sometimes. But at the end of the day, also, particularly offensively, you're not going to get that production out of nearly any other second baseman, maybe with the exception of Ketel Marte out there. So that's good. Shortstop, you're going to have probably Caballero to start 2026, since Volpe's recovering from his injury, and then even aside from that, doesn't deserve it. Third base, you're going to have Ryan McMahon. Fantastic defensively, but offensively, I'm not so sure there's been a weaker left side of the infield in a while. Probably some rival left side of the infield, left sides in the last few years, but from an offensive standpoint, you're getting to a yikes level there. Judge, he's Judge. Austin Wells behind the plate, I don't know, man. A lot of people like Austin Wells a lot more than I do. I understand the defense improved, but, I don't know. I'm not there with the offense. I know that there are certain categories that I said I was okay with, and yeah, I'll still stick by some of those. I'd like to stay consistent, but sorry. But I know not every catcher can even be a fraction of Cal Raleigh, but, Wells just doesn't do it for me. He doesn't. The extended offensive streaks of just pitiful hitting, it just becomes way too much. It comes in spurts, but, those spurts are so few and far between, and they don't last long either. Oh, my God, my throat is screwed up. But, just the phlegm, my God. But just doesn't move the needle for me. Not nearly enough. Like I've said, I would rather Ben Rice get a bunch of more reps behind home plate as the catcher. I know he's not what you'd like him to be defensively, but he's still at that age where you could work with him and try to improve in it. And if not, then you pull the plug, You pull the plug, and you go back to what you were planning before. But then again, that plan that I had was a little bit contingent on getting at least one of Okamoto and Murakami, and that didn't happen. So now you've got a little bit more of a dilemma on your hands, and now Ben Rice sort of has to take first base if you're ready for him to take that full-time commitment. So screw me with that, I guess. So I guess you have to have Ben back there, and you're pretty much stuck with Wells, but whatever. So that's that. Judge, I already said, well, Judge is Judge. You just hope he stays healthy, and other than that, you know what he's going to do. Then you have in center field, guess you're going to have Trent back. I know a lot of people are just beyond unhappy about that, particularly just with the money. I do have my doubts, as to whether he can come even close to his beyond outlier 2025. He very well could. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I think Trent's got this streak to him that's just like a warrior. And I think he's capable of surprising a lot of people. His defense, you already know what that is, but if his offense could even be partially what it was last year, then I would take that personally. Maybe not for quite for the amount of money, but still take it. Having a good defensive center fielder is very valuable. And if he could maybe hit 250, 260 again, and maybe hit between like 25 and 30 home runs again, even around 25, I can work with that. 70, 80 RBIs, something like that. That's pretty good. I'll go with that. That's pretty good. And maybe a little bit more production in the playoffs this time, fine. But then you got like Spencer and Dominguez. If you want to have Spencer start 2026 or play at any point. Otherwise, you have Dominguez, who is either had success in bunches. His hits usually come all at once and he goes quiet for a while. Or he'll have periods of time where he's not getting consistent enough gameplay for enough days in a row to really gather together enough playing time that you accumulate a lot of consecutive success. So, and he hasn't necessarily completely proven himself because of either of those reasons or both, depending on the time period. And then Spencer would be brand new. He hasn't played a second in the big leagues yet. And you're throwing either of them out into left field. Or maybe if you want to throw them into center, then maybe Trent plays left, even though his real experience is center field. But Trent's a good enough defender. Maybe he could move. I don't know. I'd expect Trent to stay in center. But it's just, there's so many positions that I don't think are up to par that I'm just uncomfortable with. We still saw Jason struggling in left at times. We don't know how Spencer would handle left field in the big leagues yet. He hasn't played up here. It's a question mark out there, big time. Left side of the infield. Not the biggest fan of Wells behind the plate. There are not many positions on the field that I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Not too many. Maybe on half a hand I could count them. Starting rotation. It's going to be missing Rodon for about the first month, give or take. Cole for a little bit longer. Who knows how they'll be when they return, especially, like I said before, in Cole's case. And you have some good back-end guys out in the bullpen like Bednar and Cruz and Tim Hill. And if Camilo Duvall finally just decides to be even a fraction of what he was in San Francisco, that'd be a nice fourth arm to have out there for the back end as well. And then maybe when guys like Yarbrough and Blackburn maybe can solely focus on the bullpen when the rotation no longer needs their help. But I don't. Still, you need help out in the bullpen. I'd still like another reliever or two. I've made that clear. And there are some guys who they've missed out on who I think really could have helped. And it's just been, this has definitely been the quietest offseason I've ever seen for the Yankees this far into it. I have never seen an offseason where the Yankees have not done at least one semi-big thing by mid-January. I don't think I've seen that. Now, granted, in about a year, I'll have been with the Yankees as a fan for 20 years. There can very well be some years meshing together and mixing up with each other, and I just have no concept of time either. So maybe there's some off seasons that are just not sticking out as much in my memory and I'm not recalling as well that were about this quiet, maybe, give or take. But from what I can recall immediately off rip right now, I can't remember anything like this. Especially when it comes to a team that needs as much help as this one. Now, there are some Yankee fans out there who really think this team doesn't need that much help. I just happen to disagree. While the starting rotation is of least concern to me, if I had to just pick an aspect of this team that I'm least concerned with, even though I have concerns in basically every aspect of it, least concerned, probably the starting rotation. I still don't think it would have been a bad thing to add somebody. Maybe they still will. Because, we've been hearing about the Freddie Peralta trade stuff for, months now. So maybe that'll happen. I don't really know who the Yankees would even give back. I just don't know. Maybe guys like Elmer Rodriguez Cruz. We've heard guys like Ben Hess thrown around, a bunch of the prospects. The Yankees have some good arms down there. But I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think anybody knows, to be honest with you. People just making these wild predictions. as if the Yankees are doing any of this. Who knows if they even are? Because everybody who is off the board, all you've heard is that the Yankees didn't make an offer, didn't even check in, didn't this, didn't that. Who knows if it's true? But, I mean, with how quiet they are, it's not hard to believe. And then you have the lineup. I think they really could have added a really nice right-handed hitter, which is where Okamoto came in. That didn't happen. With the bullpen, no relievers yet. They got guys back. They got Tim Hill and Ryan Yarbrough and Paul Blackburn back, but those are not new additions. These were all guys on the 25 squad. New. Nothing. And like I said, because of how quiet it's been, despite all the reports going around, I mean, it's not hard to believe that they haven't checked in on anybody. The Yankees are the first ones to always say, oh, we're always doing our homework. We're checking in. We're doing this. We're talking.
Liar!
I mean, it's not hard to believe. But these last couple of weeks amidst the Yankees' silence, and it's just making fans more and more frustrated, myself included. Let's see what's going on around the rest of the league these last couple of weeks while the Yankees continue to do absolutely nothing. How about on New Year's Day, just a few days after the last time we spoke on December 28th? It was announced that the Astros agreed to a free agent contract with Tatsuya Imai. And Imai's posting period was just about to end. But, I mean, you heard that, earlier on, months ago, you heard the Yankees and him, and then it was, Jack Curry on Hot Stove, and others said there's not even a connection, so that made Yankee fans want to just jump off a roof. But it didn't end there as far as making people want to jump off a roof, because then I wanted to jump off a roof after reading a lot of articles like this one from Newsweek. So Imai ended up going to the Astros for 3 years and $54 million. Now, if you do the math on that, 3 years for $54 million, that's an AAV of 18 a year. So he got under 20. And the Japanese contracts were definitely a little bit less this offseason than other past Japanese contracts, like Yamamoto, for example, and Ohtani. Granted, he's an entirely different beast pitching and hitting, but they were a little less this winter, and a couple of the guys got very close to their posting periods before they signed. Actually, all three really did, between Murakami, Okamoto, and Imai here. Took them right up to the end of their posting periods for them to sign, but yep, they still all signed. We know Murakami went to the White Sox. Now we know here that Imai went to Houston, and we'll talk about Okamoto in a minute. So, $18 million a year. Now, I know the Yankees already have maybe just south of $100 million or floating around $100 million invested in their rotation already. But to be honest with you, I find it really hard to ever sympathize with the Yankees or empathize with them, whatever the friggin' word is. I'm just too angry to think right now. But, and congestion. But I really find it hard to feel bad for the Yankees when it comes to how much they may have invested in certain areas of the team or certain specific guys. Because right now, and even in recent years past, like, this is a team we're talking about right now. They're paying $16 million in 2026 for Ryan McMahon, someone who can't hit. He just can't hit. Plays great defense, yeah. But I could find better ways to allocate $16 million rather than it going to a guy who just gives you a great glove, which, again, is not to be minimized anyway. I'm not minimizing the defense. I'm just saying that when that much is lacking in still what is undeniably a vital area like offense, $16 million, giving a contract to Marcus Stroman that gave him $18 million in one season at any given point in this stage of his career. This is a team with a general manager that routinely mismanages and poorly allocates the money that he's given to spend. So I find it really, really difficult to feel bad when somebody's telling me right now that, and yeah, Ryan McMahon plays more than a starting pitcher does, that's for sure, no denying that. I understand all of these aspects. I get it. You don't have to explain it to me like I'm 5. But I'm just saying, even someone who got $18 million a couple of years back, Marcus Stroman with the Yankees. Imai got the same thing. And I know he hasn't thrown a pitch in this country. But you'd be willing to give someone like Stroman at that stage of his career $18 million, but you wouldn't give that to Imai, It's a 3-year contract. It's not a lifelong commitment. And if you see his stuff, if you ever watch film of him, or if you watched even just a little bit of NPB like I have in the past, the stuff is there. I mean, it's never a confirmation that it's going to be killer here in the States. It's not that it's going to translate over. But you take the chance when you could get an electric arm like that and can definitely catch the league off guard for at least a few months with stuff like that. That's just my opinion. I could be entirely incorrect. We'll see what he does with the Astros when gameplay actually begins. But my God. So it was just, apparently the price tag was an issue for them. But also, for me, I mean, the Yankees have a decent amount of lefties in their rotation right now, especially if you put Yarbrough in there while Rodon and Cole are coming back. But even when Rodon comes back, that's another lefty. Yarbrough, if he's in there right now as a 5, that's another lefty. Fried is a lefty. You got a decent amount of lefties right now in the rotation. Not that that's a problem. You like to have a mix if you could. But a righty's probably a nice thing to add under these circumstances, and Imai would have checked that box, but the Yankees don't even have any boxes to check because they're not even checking in with these guys. So this is just another piece of this Newsweek article that was posted on January 8th, so just 3 days ago. I mean, even this paragraph right here, it's just really funny. It exposes it. When Imai signed with the Astros for a reported 3 years and $54 million guaranteed, it became clear that the Yankees hadn't even been in the hunt, like we've been saying, which upset many given the extremely reasonable dollar figure he signed for. Heck, the Yankees paid more for Marcus Stroman last year than Imai is guaranteed to make in year 1. Yeah, that's exactly what I just said before. Even freaking articles are calling this crap out. It's not just me just shooting crap out there, guys. And even John Heyman, who I cannot stand, but he even went in on why the Yankees were not keen on him. It was the price tag. And then he went on to say the Yankees never even made an offer for Tatsuya Imai. They liked him as a reliever. This is the part that drives me crazy. They liked him as a reliever, while most other teams saw him as a mid-rotation or possibly even number 2 starter. Why do the Yankees always see things differently than everybody else? They truly do think that they have answers that nobody else has. Meanwhile, the whole time, they're just idiots. Damn! Yeah, for real, man. I mean, it's just crazy. Most other teams seeing him as possibly even a number 2 starter, depending on the team, of course. He wouldn't be that here, but if other teams are even viewing him as a mid-rotation guy, I think that's a fair assessment, especially for somebody who's never even thrown a pitch here yet in the States. That's probably what he'd be here anyway. He wouldn't go any higher than 4, especially after Cole and Rodon are back. You'd have Cole, Rodon, Fried. He'd definitely be at least 4. And then if you hold on to him, if he's not lost in a trade or whatever, then maybe a heel for 5? That's a solid rotation. A reliever. And some other people talk about how he's a bit undersized because he's only 5'10". But his stuff is good. Mid to maybe high 90s fastball. He's got a really weird slider that they describe as a wrong way slider. So, I mean, that fools a ton of guys. I saw a bunch of film on that from his time in Japan. So, he's got interesting stuff that could really throw the league for a loop, at least for a little while. I'm not saying you got to sign the guy for 10 years. But, dude. Now, that was probably number 2 on my list of the 3, as we know. I wanted Okamoto the most, and then probably Imai after that, and then Murakami. I would have been fine with any of the 3, like I've said. But that was very sad hearing about that Imai went to Houston of all teams as well. So Murakami had gone to the White Sox, a nothing team. And now Imai goes to one of the Yankees' bigger rivals in the Astros. Didn't end there, because then, a couple of days later, on the 3rd, happy birthday to me, right? Because the day before his posting ended, Okamoto signed with none of the teams he was associated with. Let me just start with that. Not the Pirates, not the Padres, not even the Angels. He went to the Blue Jays.
No!
Yeah, now this one pissed me off. This one really pissed me off. But, you know, as far as the Blue Jays, good for them, man. I mean, they missed a title by the skin of their teeth, as we know. Gut-wrenching defeat at the very end, literally the very end. And they wiped the blood right off their face, picked themselves up off the mat, and get right to work to get even better. Taking a chance on someone who is considered to be a great international talent to improve their team even more than it already has been. Good for them, bro. Honestly, as far as the Blue Jays, tip your cap. Good for them. As far as the Yankees, again, another guy that they apparently were not even in on, didn't make an offer to. I just don't get it. Just constant rumors about how he's going to the West Coast or he's going to Pittsburgh. The Pirates were really strongly associated with him. And then apparently it was much less so when all was said and done. Apparently that was misreported too. It just wasn't nearly as big as anybody thought. Yeah, sometimes with these reports, truth is tough to decipher, guys. Sometimes you just got to go with your gut or just try to look at any supporting evidence or anything that someone might be saying or doing that would allude to something happening. But otherwise, you never know it's true or false sometimes. Ends up going to the Blue Jays. Now, not only am I just pissed off at the Yankees in of themselves, but the guy goes to a division rival. And the one that's going to be clawing for first place again and is probably going to win it. I just don't get it, man. I don't get it. I really, truly don't understand. You want to talk about a guy that checked the boxes they needed. Especially if you wanted to see somebody else get some time at first base, or maybe even if you want him to get some third base reps, then that's great too. Especially if you wanted to platoon him over there if he's ever not playing first or whatever on, for a matchup day or a day that McMahon needs off, or if, God forbid, he gets hurt. You had a guy who could play either of the corner infield positions, first or third, in Okamoto. You got a right-handed hitter, put bat to ball and had some pop. Really new and interesting hitter who the league doesn't really know yet, so they would take some time to adjust to his offensive capabilities. Have to figure out how to pitch him differently. What box was not checked of things that the Yankees could have really used? None, as far as I'm concerned. Oh, but he hasn't played here before. You don't know how it's going to translate. People who have played here before still perfectly mess up when they get here to any other team. Happens all the time. I don't know. I really don't know. He was the one I wanted the most, so that one really just the knife went in and twisted on that one. I know that a lot of people had replied to my tweet. A lot of people were frustrated along with me, but you get those few, the shills who will never not go to bat for the Yankees. And listen, if that's their version of being fans, then fine. I mean, I'm not here to change anybody's mind. It's really hard to change anybody's mind, especially nowadays anyway, because everybody's just so attached to with their convictions and their opinions and their thoughts, and maybe they're even led to think the wrong thing, myself included sometimes, possibly, who knows. I think we're all a victim of that to some degree in today's modern world. But, not to get all philosophical for a second, but, I mean, they're just people who belong to, in my opinion, that toxic positivity crowd who, even when everybody has every right to be upset with the Yankees with how they've managed things the last bunch of years and how they still claim to be smarter than absolutely everybody else, and still yet they sit here in mid-January still having done nothing while teams all around the league everywhere, especially the ones immediately around them, continue to improve. Spoke about in the last episode too what the rest of the AL East teams have done. They've made their moves, even if you don't think they happen to be big deals, whatever they are. They've done things. They've made moves. They've shown signs of life. What the hell are we doing? Yeah, this Okamoto news really hit me hard. It really hit me hard. I really wanted him on the Yankees. I think he would have been a great fit here. Even on top of all the other accolades and positives I mentioned before, he's a little older, but that, in my opinion, makes him more of a veteran presence, makes him more experienced, makes him even a safer option than some of the others. He just checked the boxes of what the Yankees really needed in so many ways, and now he's going to be up north helping an already great Blue Jays team. It's so annoying. It is so unbelievably annoying. And another highlight of this to somehow make it even more annoying is what he's signed to. The Blue Jays got him on a 4-year, $60 million deal. It's $15 million a year.
Holy crap!
Yeah. Yep. He's going to be making less than Ryan McMahon. And I know that's not including the signing bonus. I know that even if you do not include the signing bonus, it's only $1 million less. God, if only that made it less irritating. $15 million a year for someone who would have been that nice on this team. Would have been really nice. I know the guy plays more third base, but I don't care. I don't care. I'd rather him there. It's just the irresponsible decision-making. It just continues to bite us in the present. It just hinders the Yankees in the here and now. It just always comes back to bite. Decisions made in the last couple of years. And then the Yankees limit themselves. They limit themselves on top of that, and you wonder why they're run the way they're run. And people might crap on me for valuing a guy who hasn't played in the United States yet over a guy who's a very good defender and wondering why I'm minimizing that, even though I've said already that I'm not doing that. I appreciate the defense, but I also acknowledge the importance of the offense. This is coming from a fan who has watched this team both in 2025 and in many years in the past absolutely drop dead at the plate when it matters. And I'm merely someone who is just slightly tired of seeing it time and again when it matters most. So you'll have to excuse me when I want the Yankees to try something that I think could work out very nicely over another option that they currently have on the team right now, where you know that there's a big, important aspect that you're not going to get out of said guy, who's actually going to be making $1 million more than this intriguing new option that could bring out a bunch of new possibilities, things that could really help your team. But I guess that makes me a crap fan in the eyes of some. Well, the joke's on you. Because you know what the Yankees' response to that was the very next day? They signed Paul DeYoung to a minor league deal with an invite to spring training. Yeah, I'm just. What else is there to say? I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know. You just can't make it up. So that's been their big move the last couple of weeks since we last spoke was, they signed Paul DeYoung to a minor league deal with an invite to spring training. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm doing the best I can, guys. I don't know. So all the Japanese guys off the board. Even this other guy. You want to talk about what happened even after that? After Paul DeYoung was signed to a minor league deal, bombshell move. There were intense rumors right after that happened, and people actually thought that something was going to happen given this, because it was really gaining a lot of traction on social media everywhere for maybe a day or two, a while. People were talking about it pretty intensely. But there were some heavy rumors that the Yankees were going to go for Edward Cabrera on the Marlins. I briefly mentioned this earlier in the show. Despite some concern over him being very injury-prone, some problems with his elbow in the past, and people had some concerns there. But the rumors on this were really strong a few days ago. Even I was starting to think, like, wow, they might actually get him. It turns out I could be a fool just like everybody else sometimes. Well, even that fell through because the Cubs got him on Wednesday. So, even if they wanted to fall back on this argument, and I heard this clever little argument a few days ago by Michael Kay especially, who I do like. I have sort of like a love-hate thing with Michael Kay. I very much respect what he's accomplished throughout his career, of course, and all of that, definitely. Listen, no disrespect to him at all, but I heard him and a few others make this argument too, not only just him. But they made this argument that, the Yankees haven't lost out on anyone who they were actually in on. So much for that. Yeah, so even if they wanted to use that argument, Like I heard him say on the show a few days ago that, oh, they haven't lost out on anybody who they're actually in on, since so many of the guys who have been spoken about throughout the winter and have signed elsewhere, the Yankees weren't even in on them or never offered them anything. Such as, like, any of the Japanese players or anyone else, really. Well, the Cabrera news officially punctured a gaping hole in that lame point. What a shame. Stop shilling for this team. It's okay to call out shortcomings. It's okay. I know Cabrera came with his concerns. I know he was injury prone. I know he's had issues with his elbow. Guys, the world will still be spinning tomorrow if you are a Yankee fan and you declare that you are disappointed at the very least that the Yankees have not made any moves yet in mid-January, where they really could afford to improve multiple aspects of this team that, again, got embarrassed ultimately in 2025. Like they have for so many seasons, so many postseasons in the last, I would say, 5 to 8 years. 2017 wasn't so much of an embarrassment, especially with what came out about that after the fact. 2018 was pretty embarrassing with the Red Sox. It was pretty embarrassing, humiliating, especially that double-digit loss at Yankee Stadium. That was pretty humiliating. 2019, it was a tough pill to swallow, especially with Chapman grinning and all that crap. 2020, the Rays got the best of them. That was a well-fought series. 2021, humiliating wild card loss against the Red Sox. 2022, humiliating sweep at the hands of the Astros at Yankee Stadium. 2023 didn't make the playoffs at all. That's embarrassing enough in its own right. 2024, they made the World Series. Had that end. Last year, look at the series against the Blue Jays, how they got manhandled. Embarrassment after embarrassment after embarrassment. Shortcoming after shortcoming after shortcoming. Did they make moves that were good at the times they were made? Sure they did. I've admitted them as they've happened in real time. But many things were also very poorly done, poorly managed. And now, after so many aspects of the team, one could argue, could really use upgrades externally, not just running it back. After yet another embarrassment, with a potential lockout, very likely to be a lockout around the corner in baseball, the whole landscape of it, or at least a chunk of it, changing as we know it. Perhaps after the lockout, 2027's up in the air. You have an off-season like this? Where now a guy who people reported up and down the Yankees were actually in on, well, they lost out on him now. So another guy off the board, another dart off the board. Oh, they avoided arbitration by reaching deals with their remaining eligible players in that regard, so good for them there, I guess. They're giving a raise to Jazz Chisholm. He'll be getting $10.2 million in 2026, and then he'll reach free agency, potentially. They announced one-year deals with Bednar, Jake Bird, Caballero, Duvall, Heel, Volpe. Bednar's getting $9 million. Caballero, $2 million. Cruz, $1.4. Duvall, $6.1. Heel, a little over $2.1. And Volpe with $3.475 million. So good for them in that regard. That's great. I mean, things that have to get done. But between that and just the Paul DeJong news right after the Cosmo Okamoto news, I mean, isn't that just great? This isn't the first time, not nearly, that the Yankees have done that, where another team will make a big signing, especially with a potential player that Yankee fans might have been really hoping that their own team was in on. And then just the very next stage is a nice big old bird, nice middle finger right in your face, with a lame dud move right after that, just a minor league deal with a nothing. Right after that. On my birthday, just for me. Happy birthday to me, like I said. Unbelievable. Really, it's just freaking amazing to me. So even Cabrera, they even lost out on him. And he came with his concerns. It's not the end of the world for me, to be honest. But would have been a nice arm to add still. Had electric stuff. See how he does in Chicago now. Speaking of Chicago, like I had mentioned briefly before, the Red Sox lost out on Bregman. That's a very good thing for the AL East, outside of them, of course. So that's good news for the Yankees, and nice to have him out of the division. A lot of complicated history there, of course, but a lot of Yankee fans would like to see him in pinstripes helping out with third base and providing the offense that he does. Hard to totally blame people there. I know the personal history makes it very complicated, and I don't disagree with that either. But if we're talking about strictly gameplay and strictly the player, what's on the field, unfortunately, guys, he's undeniably good, whether you like it or not. You're just going to have to deal with it. So, yeah, could have been a nice addition for the Yankees, but nonetheless, if he's not going to come here and people who absolutely hate him to the bone as a person, if they're happy he's not here, well then great, because not only is he out of the division, he's out of the American League, period. Because along with Cabrera, he too is headed to the Cubs. 5 years, $175 million. So Bregman got his bag. So that's a big deal. And that could also be floor setting for someone like Cody Bellinger. And the news has really been swirling about him lately, because obviously that leads me to the real last talking point of where the Yankees are at right now, still having done absolutely nothing on January 11th, on the night of. Could quickly change, who knows, but only one way to find out. But right now, the big guys that people are still throwing around are guys like Cody or Kyle Tucker or Freddie Peralta, with the possible trade still with Milwaukee. And the Tucker discussions died down a little bit. I mean, with some other teams as well, because like with Toronto getting Okamoto and with them being as active as they've been with constructing their team and making themselves even better than they already were in 25, people are saying that could bring about doubt as to whether or not they could bring him in. The rumors with him and Toronto have been very strong for months now otherwise. Some people are still rumoring, the Dodgers could get him, whatever. But Tucker's died down a little bit, and there's even been some discussion that because of the lack of discussion with him, that he might even have to settle for a shorter-term deal. So that had some people really intrigued, especially Yankee fans, saying, well, if they could get him for a little bit shorter term, after he took a bit of a step back offensively and especially even defensively in 25, they'd get him a little cheaper with a little less long term, then that'd be all the more reason for the Yankees to go for him, and that'd be nice. But discussion on that is still mostly quiet. The real discussion is centering around, if it's not centering around guys like Peralta, it's really still around Cody Bellinger, which is understandable because that's the guy a lot of Yankee fans have talked about for a while now. That's the one that a lot of people have wanted back after how well he fit in here. We've spoken about it for weeks, multiple episodes. No need to repeat ourselves. We know the deal with Cody Bellinger and everything that comes with him. Thing is, though, in the last few days, we've heard for some weeks now that the potential asks could be like off the charts. But now in the last couple of weeks, you've heard official news that they've sent Cody, the Yankees have, a couple of different offers. And they're apparently reported to be around like the 5-year, $150-ish million range. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. For someone like Cody Bellinger, I think that's plenty fair. And I've been hard on the Yankees for missing out on certain amounts of guys or not even being in on certain guys, and I'll continue to do so. I'm that kind of fan that holds them accountable despite my love and passion for them, which is questionable at times. I'm joking. Kind of. But you get it. But there are also plenty of other times when they've had guys they've lost that I'll definitely say, listen, I agree with them sticking their ground on this one. And unfortunately, for how much I love Cody, if this does turn out to be true, and this is completely the truth, and it does stay this way to the very end, this is going to be one of those instances where I side with the Yankees. Because apparently Cody and his camp, or should I say that greedy SOB Scott Boras, who I cannot stand, they believe that he is deserving, according to reports, of anything around 7 years in the $30 to $40 million range. I've heard $36 million, I've heard $35 million, I've heard $37 million.
Holy crap!
That, I can tell you, right now, is utterly preposterous, as Frank Barone himself even just alluded to, because that is, listen, Cody is a very nice baseball player. He is solid. He is. To be one home run short of 30 last year, hovering around 100 RBIs, batting average in the 270s, plays multiple positions, and well at that. Listen, very valuable, solid baseball player. That being said, he is no Aaron Judge. He is no Shohei Ohtani. He is no Juan Soto, particularly offensively. Defensively is definitely better, no doubt. But he is not top talent in the whole league. He's not. He is a really, really good baseball player. He is not a superstar. He's just not. That is too much. Too much on the years, too much money, floating around $40 million, even anywhere remotely close to that. I would have been between 25 and 30, to be honest with you. I'd be willing to do 30, maybe like 31 if you want to get technical about it. But, I mean, between 36 and 40 million and at 7 years, yeah, I'm good on that. If that is the requirement, I hate to say it because I really have liked him as a Yankee. Best of luck, Cody. Best of luck. If somebody else out there wants to give someone in his late 20s, not far off from 30 at all, what is he, 29 right now, I believe? It's just hard to memorize everybody's ages. He's 30 already. He's 30 already. And in the middle of the year, he'll be 31. And especially when you consider, unfortunately, there's just a fact about him as a player, his inconsistency that he has had at times throughout his career, and major inconsistencies. I'm talking about so much whiplash to the point that your head almost pops right off from between your shoulders. Talking about some really nice numbers. You even remember his 2019 with the Dodgers, right? A year like that to being easily one of the worst players in Major League Baseball. Really abrupt, severe swings. Extreme inconsistency. It's been much less of that the last handful of years, yes. Especially in his years with Chicago. And he had a very nice year at the Yankees last year. But that inconsistency has still been there in his career at times. 7 years when he's going to be 31 in the middle of 2026, that's too much. That's too much. I would really struggle to go over 5. So to be honest, if the Yankees are floating around 5 years, 150, on this particular case, I gotta stick with them. Even if you don't like that, if you want me to continue being critical about the Yankees, listen, I call it as I see it, and I want to be as objective as possible. I have no problem going after the Yankees when I feel they deserve it. If you've been following me even for a second, you should know that about me, especially listening to this episode. Not to mention plenty of others. But on this one, I got the Yankees' backs on this one. If this is the case, they got to focus up on Tucker or just about anybody else they could figure out. I don't know how I feel with committing to Dominguez that severely and relying on someone who would be making his major league debut this year in Spencer Jones to really just man the outfield to that degree. I'd feel so much more comfortable with a guy like Tucker or Bellinger in the outfield to help things along. But if this is what Bellinger's going to ask for, I got to pass. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the reports seem pretty legit. I mean, I don't know just how legit they are, and considering Boris is his agent and Boris has that whole tendency to leak crap to the media to intensify things or swing things one way or the other in his or his client's favor. He's just a manipulative and greedy bastard. Honestly, I cannot stand Scott Boras. I mean, and the fact that he uses the media for his manipulation is just next level messed up. But hey, more power to him for getting his clients the contracts that he does at times, but he's also screwed some of his other clients. So you just got to take it from a case-to-case basis. And from the fans' perspective, I can't stand the guy. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. I still give him his credit where it's due, but I personally just cannot stand him. And I think right now he is being to Cody's detriment. I think he is convincing Cody. I don't know how much say. I mean, at the end of the day, the player is all to say what he decides to do. He's the one playing. He's the actual player here. The agent looks out for their best interest and really helps them out, or maybe even completely takes over the negotiating side of things if that's something the player isn't as comfortable with doing. It's from a player-to-player basis, I would imagine. But if this is a matter of Boris trying to convince Bellinger of what he may or may not be worth, I don't think he's doing right by Cody. I don't think anyone's going to give him 7 years. If somebody does, then God love him. Have fun over there. I don't think anybody's going to do it. I think 7 years for him is preposterous. I even think 5 is a little much, but I'd be willing to do 5. 5 years between like 140 and 150 would be my thing. That's why I kind of align with the Yankees right now. I do. 5 years, 150 for him is a fine contract. It's fine. Some might even argue that it's a smidgen too much. I wouldn't be able to really argue with them that much on that point, to be honest. It's really sad. And like I was trying to say before, you're starting to hear reports heat up. And again, you don't know if this is true, if this is Boris' manipulation or whatever. But there have been reports in the last couple of days that the Yankees and Bellinger's camp are really at an impasse, which would suggest, if that's true, that Bellinger and or his camp truly think that he's worth that much money. I mean, guys, listen to this. If you were to do a 7-year contract with a $36 million AAV, annual average of earnings, it's not the actual translation of the acronym, but you get what I mean. It's the annual average of the amount of money he'll be making per year. So it's a simple math. You just have to do 7 times 36. Because the number that I and many others have been hearing floating around the last few days has been 7 years in like the $36 million per year range. So you just got to do 7 times 36 and then add all the zeros after that for the million. That's a 7-year, $252 million contract. For Cody Bellinger, that is certifiably certifiable. Yeah, I couldn't think of a better way to put it. But that is truly absurd. It's lunacy. It's for the friggin' birds. I'm never giving Cody that contract. And again, I'm not doing this because, or I'm not saying this rather because I feel bad for the Yankees or I'm trying to save them money. No financial sympathy for the Yankees. We know that. Because of what they make each year and because of how they've chosen to manage their money in the past. That leads to them saying, oh, we don't have the room for this, we don't have the room for that. Well, look at yourselves in the mirror as to why, depending on the situation. And how, if you're in that much of dire straits financially, sell the team. It's another argument I've made that I will stick by. But anyway, I'm not saying any of that to defend the Yankees for those reasons. I'm just saying that because when I study Cody Bellinger and we all evaluate him as a player, he is objectively not worth nearly that much with the dollar or the years. It is ridiculous. So if that's what Cody wants, with all due respect, and I loved his season with the Yankees, I really did. I think he fit in really great here, and I'd still like it if he came back for a reasonable contract. I wouldn't have a problem with it. I would still want the Yankees to do more after that because there's still much more work to be done, but I would very much like to welcome him back here. I would. But if it's for that, best of luck. Thanks, but no thanks. It's been real, it's been fun, but it hasn't been real fun. It's an expression between me and my friends. But yeah, that's all. That's about all I have to say for Cody. So it's looking less likely with him. Again, if it's true what we've heard, it's not looking good. Not looking good. And it really has, it's probably halted things with the Yankees to a degree because he has been said to be their biggest priority throughout this winter. Now, that doesn't mean the Yankees should limit themselves to him. They should have been doing work elsewhere and pivoting as time went along, realizing that time is passing. It's not stopping for us like it stops for nobody. And we still have other work to do. So if something comes up, let's lock in on that and then maybe revisit the Cody thing. Maybe they're afraid that if they do that, they lose out on him. But I don't see anybody else knocking down the door to sign him for 7 freaking years. So, yeah, just lock in on Tucker or another option somewhere. It's really weird. If it's not Tucker, they're probably just going to put their eggs in the Dominguez and Spencer Jones basket, which is I know a lot of people like to leave it to the kids per se, but that's a gamble, especially when you're trying to have a team to compete now so that Aaron Judge does not retire ringless primarily. which is starting to look like more and more of a possibility every single day and every single year. Part of that's been his fault with his playoff performances in the past, but not entirely his fault, not nearly. And he definitely came alive in 25 for the playoffs, for the brief time they were in it. And in years past, particularly towards the earlier part of his career, he had decent postseasons. It's really just for a couple of them in the middle there, like 2020, 2022, and 2024 for the most part up until the very end of the World Series there, that he was really non-existent. He's had his successes in the postseason, even if they haven't been frequent and they were few and far between, that's been there. And regardless of how you want to spin it, the guy deserves a ring. And he is massively responsible for getting them there each and every year, putting up godly video game-like numbers. That's just the truth of it. And the more guys they lose out on, whether it be for no fault of their own or for fault of their own, still doesn't make it better. It doesn't. So the Bellinger situation's not good. For Tucker, I don't know if he is going to have to settle for a shorter-term deal because time is continuing to move along here. It's just a matter of weeks until pitchers and catchers will report, and that's when it starts to fly, man. It's here before you know it. So time is a ticking. It stops for nobody. Still got work to do. Is the Peralta trade going to happen? I don't know. Who would the Yankees give up in that? Would they have to give away Luis Gil? People have floated his name out there. Would Elmer Rodriguez Cruz go? Or would Ben Hess go? I hear the Brewers might be interested in some young pitching. Yankees have some of that in their system. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know, but guys like Cabrera, all the Japanese guys are off the board, which is what I'm especially upset about. If we remember, and I'm staying consistent on this, now that this week has arrived where they're all off the board, and they're all here, none of them went back to Japan in the big three, I said, for me to be truly happy this offseason, I'm really looking for the Yankees to get at least one of those three Japanese guys. They got 0. And I am very pissed off about that. I'm very pissed off. And I think it's going to come back to bite. I think at least one or two of them are going to have themselves a very nice 2026. And I'm going to be giving the Yankees the dirtiest glare all the way from my apartment throughout that entire time. Because I am not happy about them not getting any of those three. Not even just a one. And now this Bellinger drama. The AL East in plenty of ways has gotten better. A lot of teams around the league, period, have gotten better. Yankees have done nothing big. Nothing. And especially with the Bellinger thing apparently, reportedly being at sort of an impasse right now, has a lot of people questioning, like, what's next? Like, where do they go from here? A lot of people just don't know. It's weird, man. Now they get Paul DeYoung on a minor league deal. They signed Nick Torres from the Mexican League on a minor league deal. I don't know, man. The only other real option that everybody else is talking about is Bo Bichette. And he's an interesting one because at the very beginning of the offseason, I had mentioned the possibility of just throwing a bag at him because of how much I couldn't stand Volpe and how much I was down on the left side of the infield and whatnot. The interesting thing is that started to pick up more steam now that Bellinger's looking as bleak as it is. That's one of the other things the Yankees could pivot to, even though one doesn't have to do with the other as far as positioning is concerned, because you're talking about a shortstop / second baseman and an outfielder / first baseman. So one doesn't have to do with the other, but they're both been names being thrown around this winter. And Bichette's been considered, I would say, less likely for the last couple of months than others. I think it was just more of a pipe dream for some people. But it's becoming more and more real now that the news about Bellinger, someone who the Yankees really prioritize, has apparently hit an impasse. It could be nice in the infield, and that's a right-handed hitter who hits for contact very well, puts bat to ball extremely well, and will even have some pop too, despite going through some remarkable periods of time where he doesn't hit a home run, like that time where it was weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks without a single home run to start a year. It's pretty weird, but he corrected it after that. But Yeah, you'll get some really good offense out of him. But there's something really interesting, and that's that a lot of people consider him to be a second baseman now rather than a shortstop. His defense has been very poor at shortstop for the most part, which is something that he and Anthony Volpe especially recently have in common. So wouldn't be much of an upgrade there, unfortunately, especially as of Volpe's 2025 numbers at shortstop. But offensively, it's not even a discussion as to who's going to give you more. It's like you're talking about the difference between a mere mortal and a deity. I mean, it's just not even remotely close. Bichette will easily clear offensively. But the problem is that the Yankees and a lot of others apparently, and I would even agree with it, especially with the nice second base he seemed to play in the playoffs, even though it was like his first time playing it, that Bichette is probably going to be better off and more fitting at second base. The Yankees have a second baseman. They have Jazz Chisholm. Now, Jazz has much more second base experience and will also give you good production offensively, different kinds of production than Bichette. Some people would rather Bichette there because Jazz has even been rumored in some trades. Maybe he could go in the Peralta trade or maybe another trade. I don't really know. He could be packaged somewhere. People have been floating the idea around. And I wouldn't be a fan of that because of the offense that he provides, and that is vital unless you get someone like Bo Bichette. But even if you do that, then you're losing out on a premier second base bat. But if you want to keep Jazz, then maybe you move him back to third, but his defense there is going to be questionable. What do you do with McMahon? You can't platoon Jazz and McMahon because Jazz belongs out there more often than not, and they're both lefties. So it doesn't make much sense to platoon for matchup purposes. You get rid of McMahon, then you package him. Who's going to take him? Extremely good third base defense is very important, but who's in dire need for that? Is anybody going to be interested in the lack of offense that comes with it? I don't know. So it's just kind of weird. That's almost like square peg, round hole sort of a thing when you get into really talking about how Bichette would fit. I mean, maybe they get him and then they trade for Peralta, and Jazz goes in that package, and Bichette takes over second. There's no guarantee that Bichette's going to be a good second baseman. You saw him play there a little bit in the playoffs. He looked really good, and you imagine that it might help to not have to throw as long to first base like he did with shortstop, and he messed up with that a bunch of times. So you hope that works, but you're probably going to get better defense out of Jazz. Probably. Who knows if that's actually true, and you actually see Bichette really play second base for an extended period of time. Both will give you good offense, just in different ways. Jazz will probably give you a bit more pop, especially when it comes to Yankee Stadium, and the advantage that gives him as a left-handed hitter, that you saw very much so in 2025, and overall in his time as a Yankee, I would say. He does really get a hold of a few. It wouldn't matter where he plays, but you get what I mean, naturally, as a left-handed hitter at Yankee Stadium. But Bichette puts bat to ball more often, I would say, and that's really what the Yankees are in more need of, I would definitely say. So they'll give you production in different ways. Less of a guarantee defensively for Bichette. If you don't package Jazz or McMahon, what would you do at the infield? How does that fit? It just gets really weird. Not to mention, again, like I said before, it's irrelevant to losing out on Cody. Cody's an outfielder / first baseman. It's not a direct replacement if you pivot to Bichette instead. It would just be tackling another problem that they have. Unless they do want to force the issue at shortstop in the meantime and just abandon Volpe, which I would not be opposed to abandoning Volpe portion of it. But at shortstop, you have the defensive concerns still. You're not improving there defensively, which is a big need there for the Yankees. And you would hope that Volpe improves there, but how much longer can you put up with not only just the lack of production overall, but even the regression we've seen in some areas in the last couple of years? Despite him getting more experience, he's regressing, as we know. So even the Bichette discussion gets weird, even though, trust me, especially for the offense, I would love to have him. I don't know what kind of contract he's going to get. And yeah, the Blue Jays getting Okamoto and possibly even still in on Tucker, that probably takes him out of the Bichette sweepstakes, which is what people have really been speculating, and the Yankees being at an impasse with Bellinger in his camp, reportedly so. It's intensified the Bichette rumors recently, so there's that too. So the big four, if I had to say, are Bellinger, Tucker, Peralta, and Bichette. Do any of them happen? I really don't know. And at this point, I don't really think many others do either. But so far, here on January 11th, all I have to say is that this offseason, so far, as we get ready to head into the week of January 12th with nothing big having happened yet, absolute zilch. This offseason, in my eyes, it hasn't even been an F. It's a freaking Z, as in the lowest possible letter you can go to in the alphabet. Also, conveniently, as in... I had to, I'm sorry. There's quite a bit of Z's coming from the Bronx lately. All right, they get it. But yeah, guys, that's just the most emphasis I could possibly provide on my thoughts on this offseason. Just the definition of unacceptable so far. I just cannot believe we're heading into mid-January and nothing's been done yet. Obviously, the next time we'll yap after this will probably be on January 25th. If something major happens this week, then I'll talk to you this coming Sunday, the 18th. But otherwise, it'll just be the 25th. But even by then, I don't know if anything will have happened at this point. I'm not expecting anything. My expectations are basically so low, they're touching the Earth's core at this point. It's really sad. How little they appear to care. How much they're just penny pinching and just talking about payroll and profit and budget and all of these things. And how they're prioritizing that over actually just formulating a good team and making good financial decisions. And I don't know. It's just sad because they're a couple of moves away. They're just a handful of moves. And just when they're right there, sometimes they just limit themselves. They become their own worst enemy. It's really weird. This just is not the same organization that I started rooting for 20 years ago. It's just not the same. The organization that would have been in on at least one of the 3 Japanese players. I'm sorry. It's just, they would have been. I know a lot of people like to say, oh, there might be a reason that you don't know. You're just a fan. What do you know? Yeah, what do I know? It's right. But what do you know too? Out here acting like you know more than me. It's ridiculous. It's a comedy show, what some of these freaking fans tell you. Just for having an opinion, as if they know better and they're within the clubhouse. If it is someone in the clubhouse or with internal connections, okay. But even they're wrong sometimes. They have a bad source sometimes. We just don't know at the end of the day all the time. Nobody's all-knowing, so get off your high horse. I never claim to be all-knowing. I just go based off of what I have here. This is not the same team that I started rooting for almost 20 years ago. Basically 20 years ago, minus a year. It's basically 20 years. Not in on them. No offer. I just drive myself crazy. On that thought, let's go to a social media question, because yes, I actually do have one this week.
This is where the fun begins.
Yeah, not really, Anakin. Just more discussion about how little the Yankees are doing. But anyway, fun for you, perhaps. But yeah, I did have a Yapping Yankees question on social media today. So let's just talk about it and get through some replies, see what you guys had to say about it. Quite simply put, it's really the only question in the world right now. Do you still even see the Yankees making any big moves at this point anymore? And if so, what move or moves? And to give your thoughts, well, I think my monologue for the last hour plus has said plenty and expanded upon my thoughts quite nicely. So let's hear some of your thoughts on this. Let's start with Shawnee B at JokerSean37. And he responds, Tucker and Bichette if Bellinger signs somewhere else. I don't see the Yankees doing that much. I see it as being one or the other. It'd be nice you're addressing the outfield and the infield in that respect. But I don't think they're going to spend that kind of money. I don't know if Tucker, just because he might have to accept a shorter-term deal. I shouldn't say short-term. Shorter-term deal, according to some reports. I don't know if it's going to be short enough and small enough to the point where they could pull off both. I don't know. Up next, we have at Briary_Yankee. And they say they'll do something for sure. Whether it's something that makes the fans happy is to be determined. Good answer. That is a smart response. At Follies Blue says they will sign one guy, putting us at par with last year's team because they think there were only a few breaks. Away, Volpe, Wells developing, and a Garrett Cole away from winning. But they will not make trades that are necessary to put chips all in to have a beast team built to win in October. Yeah, that's the sad part. That's what I've been saying. Like, sometimes I feel like when they're really not all that far off, they just limit themselves, or maybe they think that they're better than they actually are. It's really aggravating. How they really just evaluate things so much differently than other teams who just prove to be smarter than them. Yet the Yankees still have that mentality and that approach. Like, they still think they're just smarter than everybody else. Like, why are they like the only ones pretty much who viewed Imai as a reliever instead of a mid to back end rotation guy? And mid to back end would have been what he would have been at this rotation with the Yankees at full strength anyway. He wouldn't have been higher than a 4. Cole, Rodon, and Fried would have all been ahead of him. Makes me very frustrated, in case you can't tell. At Yankee Librarian says, I think Bellinger actually does come back, or we do get something like Joe Adele or Ian Happ. That's my gut. I'd like to be wrong. I'm sorry, bro. Yeah, those guys have their pluses, but that's just not good enough. It's not good enough. They need to do more than that. And I think you know that too, which is why you said you'd like to be wrong. But I agree. I wouldn't be surprised, man, if that's something like that is it. Rebecca at Peace Now for Life says, Hi, Mike. I'm expecting 1 or 2 big moves. I think Bellinger has been the holdup. I think it'll be a starting pitcher, Gore or Peralta, and one of Bellinger, Tucker, or Bichette. Yeah, I guess pretty good odds for that. I would not be happy if the move is Mackenzie Gore. I know that's a name I forgot to mention, but it's not even really that majorly mentioned, and it's not something that I want. Mackenzie Gore, not only is it just another lefty for the rotation, which, yeah, it's not the end of the world. I don't need a perfect mix of lefties and righties at the end of the day. I only harp on that to a certain degree, whether it be for offense or pitching. But it is good for just, keeping it mixed up, switching it up. But not only is he another lefty, but he's just not that good. ERA constantly in the low to mid 4s. Like, the Yankees, I want better, bro. I want better than that. Like, especially if that's the only move. Like, oh my God, would that be unacceptable? Like, I'm sorry. I'm holding this team to higher standards because they're not unbelievably far off, but I'm tired of hearing the penny pinching and just holding themselves back. Especially while others are getting better. It can't just be Gore. It can't be. It'd just be unacceptable. But Peralta and then maybe one of those 3, we'll see. Up next, we have James, my good buddy, at Rebirth Chaos 09, says, man, this is tough. I think they'll make moves, probably trade for a pitcher like Peralta. For a bat, not sure. Maybe Tucker. I wouldn't give Cody that much money. Yeah, I mean, as we've been saying, the Cody info, if it's true, it's ludicrous. Up next is Hundaki Mahiz. Is that right? Interesting name. Interesting handle. But anyway, they said Red Nico Horner is available after Bregman signed there. Yeah, it'd be a nice fit. But again, so you're giving them Jazz? Like, what happens there? So again, you're just saying goodbye to Jazz. I don't entirely know how I feel about that, considering how he just puts up objectively really good production as a second baseman. He just does, whether you like the guy or not, and you have problems with the way he does things defensively or off the field or what have you. I mean, the guy puts up great numbers overall as a second baseman. So, I don't know. It's weird. So, you just packaging Jazz back there? I guess that's the question. Or with others? I'm not sure. It's a guy who puts bat to ball, that's for sure. At Curtis 1978 says, nope, think they're sticking with the younger players, hoping they improve. I wouldn't even call Belly a big move. 18 homers ain't going to win the World Series. 18 homers? Where are you getting that from? He didn't hit 18 homers last year. Yeah, he hit 29. I don't know, unless you think that's what he's going to do. He didn't hit 18 home runs. I'm confused by that part. But yeah, I mean, the sentiment about not calling Bellinger a big move, it would be their biggest move by far. That's for sure. I would categorize it as a big move, especially in comparison to what's happened so far. But as far as that big external addition, yeah, no, it's not. It's running it back because Bellinger was already on the 25 squad. As far as I'm concerned, that's bare minimum. It's another story when you talk about the money that's being and the years that are being demanded, but yeah, I agree with that sentiment. Yeah, I think they are putting a lot of hope in the young players, though, which is it's just not going to work out there. I mean, this team as is right now, it's just not as good as they think it is. It's really not. I know they can't can't is a strong word. God forbid anybody be honest, even if potentially harmful. But sometimes the truth ain't always sunshine and rainbows, my friends. Hate to break it to you. But God forbid anybody admit that this team just is not as good as they think it is, because it's not. They're not going to go out there and say that, but it's the truth. So, all right, let's wrap this up with the usual final two. First and foremost, my fiancée Victoria. And she says, maybe they might make a big move at some point, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if they didn't. Yeah, this is the level of confidence that some people have in this team right now, man. I mean, especially with the way this offseason's gone, it's sad. I can't blame people for feeling this way, though. The offseason has been, say what you want about how the Yankees do things, but even with that sense, this has just been beyond unusually dead. To say a slumber at this point, it's the understatement of the century. It's ridiculous. I don't blame you for feeling that way, though, babe. I really don't. Last but not least is my mom at Julia Gina Scudero saying, "Hi, Mike. I've got to admit, I think the front office is insane and have no intention of caring about winning or the fans' desire for a World Series win. They're doing nothing. Maybe Bo Bichette. I doubt it. Cody's asking for too much. I feel the Yanks made him a good offer. Maybe Volpe will save the day when he's back. LOL. We need a new owner bad. I'd say let's go Yankees, but that's a waste of time. I hope I'm wrong. Thanks." Yeah, as far as if things are really that tight for good old Hal up there, yeah, I would say if things are that tight, then you got to sell the team, my guy. Get a nice payout from selling. So if you're in that much of dire straits, then just sell and give it to somebody who will spend and isn't so scared of the $300 million number. But yeah, Volpe saving the day. That's hilarious. But yeah, Cody asking for too much, like we said, absolutely. Yanks definitely made him a fair offer, in my opinion. And Bo Bichette, I don't know. It's intensified since the Bellinger news in the last couple of days. But it's tough, man. It's really tough. And the way this offseason's gone, regardless of case by case, whether it's their fault or not, it's not a good look. Everybody else is getting better. Time's moving. Spring training's going to be here before you know it. No big moves being made by mid-January. You can spin it however you want. It's an awful, awful look. Oh, well, that's basically where we're at right now, guys. But since that's the end of the social media segment, there were more that I didn't get to, but thank you all, each and every one of you, for replying as always. Been a little while since we did one. I'll try to have another one for you on the next episode, but good to hear some of your thoughts again on some of the names thrown around, majorly just things that I spoke about today and that everybody's pretty much talking about, but good to still exchange some ideas and thoughts all around. Good to get some interaction. But thank you to each and every one of you who took even just a moment to interact with the show today or interact with me and leave a response for me on this week's social media question. I really appreciate it, as always. But without further ado, that is all for episode 272 of Yapping Yankees today. And hey, that was a sick rhyme. But regardless, remember, as always, to follow me on all socials if you do not already, my friends. My Facebook fan page is Mike Scudero NY. My Twitter or X is at Mike Scudero. And my Instagram is Mike Scuds97. Be sure to subscribe to Yapping Yankees on all four of the platforms it is available on. That is YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Like, subscribe, comment, do whatever it is that you do to show your love and spread the word about the show, like you always do such a great job at doing, my friends. And if you have the time, listen to the past Yapping Yankees episodes that you might have missed as well. especially now that the show is just a couple episodes away from transitioning to live streaming. Every episode of Yapping Yankees that ever was, going all the way back to episode 1, all the way up to 272 today, those can all be found on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. But if you're more of a YouTube listener like I tend to be with a lot of things, that's totally fine too. But the only thing you should know is that I didn't start uploading on there until I was up to episode 34 of the show, so just be aware of that. But you can find episodes 34 up to 272 today, every single one of those in that span there. Those are all available right over on YouTube. But once again, I thank you 3,000 for listening to me yap today. As always, my good friends, I have been your host, Mike Scudero, and we shall yap again on Sunday, January 25th, when I come at you with the third to last episode of this pre-tape podcast format of Yapping Yankees, episode 273. It is crazy that we're winding down to that. And obviously that is subject to change, as always, the every other week thing. If something big happens with the Yankees this week before next Sunday, then I'll be back at you next Sunday, the 18th, with an episode to talk all about it. But otherwise, the 25th of January shall be when we yap again for episode 273. Again, the third to last episode of this pre-taped traditional podcast format for Yapping Yankees before the final one of this format, episode 275, which will be happening in February, just before spring training gets fully underway. But until then, guys, the next time we yap, the usuals, you know it. Hang in there. Be patient. Please stay safe. Look out for your loved ones. Go ahead and kick life's ass like I tell you to do every single episode. And, well, we'll see if anything happens till the next time we yap. I'm not holding my breath at this point. The names are out there, the rumors are out there, the intensity of each and every one of them is out there, and we'll see what happens, I guess. I don't really have much else to say, because I am that disappointed, as are we all. So, until we yap again, my friends, take care, and no matter how mental they make us, let's go Yanks.